amongst Christians, if you say Jesus never even claimed to be God, even in the Gospels, they'll look at you like you've said a triangle has four sides.
Mm-hmm.
In biblical scholarship, this has been a very mainstream opinion for the past few hundred years.
And why do you believe that?
Because there's no instance in the Gospels where I think Jesus is claiming to be God. Christians think that they have examples, but I think that all of them don't actually apply.
What are your examples and what are theirs?
So there are constantly examples of Jesus seeming to separate himself from the Father, where he says, like, the Father is greater than I am and stuff like this. And people, like, rattle these off. The problem is, devoid of any context, it's difficult to know what they even mean. So Christians will point to verses like when Jesus says in John chapter 10, he says, the Father and I are one. And when his disciple Philip asks him, when do we get to see the Father? He says to Philip, anyone who's seen me has seen the Father. And Christians point to that and they say, see, he's claiming to be God. But you just got to keep reading. He says to Philip, anyone has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you know that the Father is in me and I'm in the Father? Interesting. Skip to John chapter 17, where Jesus is praying for his disciples and then for all of his Christian believers. And he's praying to the Father and he says, I hope that they will all one day be in us, just as I am in you and you are in me. I hope that they will be in us and we'll all sort of be one together.
I hope.
Yeah, like he prays, like that. Yeah, like he's sort of praying for that to happen in the future, right? So whatever relationship Jesus has with the Father there, and being in him and him in him, it's something that he at least wants the disciples to one day achieve. So if that's Jesus claiming to be identical to Yahweh, the God Yahweh, then he must think that that's something that's available to the disciples.
To the rest of us, yeah.
That doesn't make sense. So we've got to reinterpret that first. Okay, like there are. This is in John's Gospel as well, like. And the interesting thing is that most of these important Christological claims only appear in John's Gospel.
And John's is the latest.
John's is the latest.
Which you said has potential.
Yeah, so there's already reason to think it's less historically reliable because it's latest, but also the fact that Jesus is making these claims in front of all of his disciples. And if in John's Gospel he makes explicit claims to be God, like in John chapter 8, he says to his Jewish opponents, before Abraham was, I am. And I am is supposed to be like a callback to the name of God in the Old Testament, and he's claimed to be pre-existent because he exists before Abraham. And a lot of Christians say this is claiming to be God. And the first question that you should ask is, okay, if Jesus actually said this, and that did actually mean that by it, did the other gospel authors just not think it was an important detail? If Jesus said in the full view of his opponents and his disciples, I am God.
Yeah, you'd think it'd
and
be
the
in every
other
single
authors
gospel.
and people say to me, well, I think that the other gospel authors were sort of focusing on different things. I'm like, oh, so they just neglected to mention the point where Jesus said, I'm God. So I don't think he historically said this, but I also don't think that means what Christians think it means for some quite interesting techie reasons.
Wait, why?
So there are two elements of the I am statement here, like in John chapter 8. Jesus is speaking to his Jewish opponents, and they say, and he's talking about eternal life, and they say, well, our father Abraham, he died. Are you saying you're greater than him? And Jesus says, Abraham rejoiced to see my day. And the Jews say, you're not even 80 years old, and Abraham has seen you, you've seen Abraham. And he goes, truly I tell you, before Abraham was, I am. At which point they pick up stones to stone him to death. So the Christians say they knew he was committing blasphemy, they knew he was claiming to be God, that's why they tried to stone him to death. There are a few interesting things that need to be pulled out of this, right? The New Testament is written in Greek. So what Jesus actually says there is, before Abraham was, ego eimi, which means I am. That is also a phrase that can just mean like, it's me. It's a very normal phrase that is used in Greek. So in the next chapter, Jesus heals a blind man. The blind man runs into town, and they say, isn't this the man who was born blind? And the man says, ego eimi. It's me. Yeah. So sometimes it can mean that. But in this context, it's a little bit weird because he uses it in the present tense. He says, before Abraham was, I am. Or it's me. Or something like that. People think that what's going on here...
Ebonics.
In the old...
Ebonics. No. He's just going, I'm him.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Go.
I actually kind of think that's basically what is going on, actually. But like
uneducated?
I think no. I mean, like when you know that sort of like you know, I'm him kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think some of the like Son of Man statements kind of approximate something.
Okay.
But whatever. In the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, which is written in Hebrew, Moses is talking to God, and God says to and God like is speaking to him through the burning bush and all this kind of stuff. And Moses says, when I go back to my people, who shall I tell them sent me? Like, what's your name? And God says, Eesha Asher Eesha. I am that I am, or I am who I am. So go and tell them that I am has sent